Prabhus. So welcome to 14 chapter, last section, which we are last 2-3 verses which are remaining. So yesterday we discussed about how while developing our Krishna consciousness, we must perform at least our services in a mode of goodness. Because any service which is tinged by the passion or ignorance, it affects our consciousness. So, how can we aspiring devotees become purified enough to serve in goodness? So, in the 14.17 shloka, Krishna describes about the results of action in the three modes. And he said, actions, what is any action done in the mode of goodness results in knowledge, and which brings about proper actions resulting in the purity. Any action done in the mode of passion produces misery, because passion means unlimited desires. There is no end to the desires, and insatiable greed. These are the two different characteristics. And any action done in the mode of ignorance, it brings about madness and illusion. And generally, a person acts foolishly in mode of ignorance. So then continuing from 14.18th shloka, there are two verbs in 14.18. There are two verbs which are used. What are the two verbs? Gachanti. Gachanti means go. Urdhvam gachanti satvastha madhye tishtanti. So the two verbs which are used in this verse, they tell the destinations of those people who acts in the mode of nature. Gachanti. Go is the gachanti. Go. Gachanti. Go is also used twice to describe those the destination in goodness and those the destination in ignorance. So if you want to go somewhere, means you have to if you want to stay in the same planet, then passion. Passion means they remain on the almost same planet, same similar planet. But if you want to go below, then ignorance. If you want to go little up, then goodness. But passion continue to stay the way wherever on earth. So in the 11th canto, Krishna explains to Uddhava about how varieties of activities which we do, they are mentioned in the 11th canto, and how they affect, how we are influenced by the modes of nature. So there is one word which comes agama. So which shastras we hear? Apah, the water we drink. Then the types of food we eat. Then praja, our association. Desha, where we live. Kala, kala means the time of the day. Karma, our activities. Janma, our conditioning from the birth. Dhyana, our thoughts. Mantras, what we chant. Samskaras, the varnashram ceremonies we undergo. So, and which begin with impregnation and ends with burial. So, in the 11th canto, Uddhava, Krishna explains this to Uddhava. So, which modes will be influenced by? What all different modes will be influenced by is depending on our association, the food we eat, the water we drink, which shastras we hear, our association, the time of the day, in which activity is done, our conditioning from the birth, our meditation, our thoughts. So these are all active. This decides which mode will be influenced by. Then coming from the 19th shloka onwards, Krishna gives how to transcend. The first step in understanding, the first step in transcending the mode is to understand that I am entrapped by the modes. So he said the first step is to observe that the modes are working upon me. Now, once one has understood that modes are working upon us, then we understand I am separate than these modes. I am separate than this body. I am separate than this mind. And in this way, one can work upon overcoming modes. So in the 14.21 shloka, Arjuna asked 3 questions. So the first question which was being asked by Arjuna was, what are the symptoms of people, those who have transcended the mode? Second question Arjuna asked, what is the behavior of a person who has transcended the modes? Third question he asked, okay, now please tell me, what is a way to overcome this moods? And in the 14 point 26, 22, 23, 24, 25, all the symptoms are being mentioned. What are the symptoms of people, those who have transcended the modes? So, coming to the last two shlokas of 14th chapter, so 22 to 25 shloka tells us about the symptoms, behavior, and symptoms and behavior. Now 26 shloka is actually going to what is a practice, what practice to be done, that one elevates one to the platform of equanimity. How can one become equal, equipoised? How one will be engaged in the devotional service? So he said one engage in devotional service immediately, automatically transcends the mode. So he said, as soon as an endeavor is put up to engage in the devotional service, one transcends the mode. And the very famous shloka, avyabhicharena, mam chayo avyabhicharena. So he said, when there is a tendency to render service to no one except Krishna, avyabhichar. Vyabhichar means, vyabhichar, the word is used for a prostitute or a person who is disloyal to his own wife, or a wife who is unchaste to his own husband. That is called as vyabhichari. Vyabhichari stri, vyabhichari purush. But avyabhichari means one who is very, very loyal, who doesn't approach anyone except Krishna. That is called as avyabhichari. So the 14.26 shloka, which we are going to discuss today, and 25 also, we'll try to discuss something about it later. So he said that is mainly going to discuss about how by avyabhichari bhakti, rendering service to no one except Krishna, then a person can overcome that, he can transcend the modes immediately. He will immediately go to the Brahman platform, and where modes will have no power over him, modes cannot touch him. That is the Brahman platform. And on that platform, when one is fully spiritual and beyond the modes of nature, the pure devotional service begins. So he begins to relish the taste of pure devotional service. Now, if you go back to the shloka number 2, there was one word called as upashritya. So in the beginning of this 14th chapter, it was Krishna mentioned that this knowledge about overcoming modes has to be upashritya. It has to be attained. It is not obtained. It has to be attained. It is like we have to attain it. And what is the way to attain it? The way to attain is to worship our spiritual master. Upashritya, worshipping the spiritual master. Why? Because when the service mood increases for a devotee, service mood is opposed to the enjoying mood. So he said, when service attitude increases for a devotee, the enjoyment mentality automatically goes away. And so the glue which is binding us to this material world, it becomes very kacha. Like sometimes in advertisement they show na Fevicol ka dam hai, चिपक के रह जाता है. Sometimes they show Fevicol, person is sitting on the bench and Fevicol lag gaya and is not able to come out only now. So he said there is a Fevicol. There is a Fevicol or that is making us attached to this material world. So he said ये attachment जो है, ये जो glue है, enjoying mentality है. ये enjoying mentality जब खत्म हो जाता है, तो जो glue है, एक गम है जो हमको चिपका के रखा है material world से, that becomes very कच्चा. And when does the service attitude reduce? When the enjoyment mentality reduces, when there is increase in the service mode. Just a minute, bro. There is a knock on the door. 1 minute. Yes, bro. Sorry. So when does this reduces? So he said the glue which is making us attached to this material world, that is enjoyment spirit. When this enjoyment spirit reduces by increasing the service attitude, then a person starts thinking that I am servant of my guru, and fixing his order means that's why he says na vyavasayatmika buddhi. So he said, one as soon as one understands, I am my guru's servant, and I fix my order. My only mission of life is to fulfill his order. Then it is said the soul gets freedom from the Maya. So the modes may dictate varieties of allurements for a person. The modes may give a lot of allurements for a person. But the devotee who is surrendered to the Guru and follows Guru's instructions, he said such a person is not affected by pushings and pullings of the modes. So here in the 14.27 now, 14.26, this description is going to come. So let's try to read this. Very famous shloka. Please memorize this. This will come in your exam. Okay, Anil Prabhu is asking, it is looking like the same question what he asked in second chapter regarding Sthita Prajna? Yeah, almost similar question. In the second chapter also he asked Sthita Pragnasya ka bhasha. And now here, especially that time the discussion was not much about modes. Now he is mainly asking more details about modes. Like in the 14th chapter when the description of modes came, so he wanted to know more about how a person who is Sthita Prajna, means how he behaves, what are the symptoms, how he's not affected by modes. And here additional question is being asked, how he overcame mode, how he became Sita Pragya, how he became Gunatita. That is an additional question here. 14.26. Very famous shloka. So memorization verse. This will surely come in your exam. So please memorize. Mam chayo vibhichareణ Bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatitaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate mam chayo vyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatitaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate mam chayo vyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatitaitan Brahma Bhujaya Kalpate. So, what is the word for word meaning for this? Mam, onto me. Onto me only. No one else. Krishna is telling, onto me, no one else. Jaha Vabhicharena. So he said, without fail. Without fail. Avabhichari bhakti. Bhakti yogena sevate. One who renders service to me by the process of devotional service. Sagunan samatitaitan. So it says samatitya. Samatitya means transcend. So the word for transcending, samatitya. गुणों को समातित समाप्त कर देगा वो. He said he will transcend. Samatitya. Brahma bhuyaya kalpate. So he said Brahma. He will go to Brahma Bhuta platform. He will come to the platform of Brahma. Kalpate. He attains. Kalpate. He attains. And samatitya. He transcends. So please read Prabhu. Very famous shloka.
Bibhu Prabhu.
One who engages in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcends the modes of material nature. Thus comes to the level of Brahman. Purport. This verse is reply to Arjuna's third question. What is the means of attaining to the transcendental position? As explained before, the material world is acting under the spell of the modes of material nature. One should not be disturbed by the activities of the modes of nature. Instead of putting his consciousness into such activities, he may transfer his consciousness to Krishna activities. Krishna activities are known as Bhakti Yoga, always acting for Krishna. These include not only Krishna but his different planetary expansions such as Rama and Narayan. He has innumerable expansions. One who is engaged in the service of any of the forms of Krishna or of his planetary expansion is considered to is be transcendentally situated. One should also note that all the forms of Krishna are fully transcendental, blissful, full of knowledge, and eternal. Such personalities of Godhead are omnipotent and omniscient. and they possesses all transcendental qualities. So, if one engages himself in the service of Krishna or his plenary expansions with unfailing determination, although these modes of material nature are very difficult to overcome, one can overcome them easily. This has already been explained in the seventh chapter. One who surrenders unto Krishna at once surmounts the influence of the modes of material nature. To be in Krishna consciousness or in the devotional service means to acquire the equality with Krishna. The Lord says that His nature is eternal, blissful, and full of knowledge, and the living entity are part and parcel of the Supreme, as gold particles are the part of a gold mine. Thus, the living entity in his spiritual position is as good as gold, as good as Krishna in quality. The difference of individuality continues. Otherwise, there would be no question of Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga means that the Lord is there and the devotee is there, and the activities of exchange of love between the Lord and the devotee devotee is there. Therefore, the individuality of two persons is present in the supreme personality of Godhead and the individual person. Otherwise, there would be no meaning to Bhakti Yoga. If one is not situated in the same transcendental position with the Lord, one cannot serve the Supreme Lord. To be a personal assistant to King, one must acquire the qualification. Thus, the qualification is to become Brahman or freed from all material contamination. It is said in the Vedic literature, Brahmaiva san Brahmapi eti. One can attain the supreme Brahman by becoming Brahman. Bruhad Aranyaka Upanishad 4.4.6. This means that one must qualitatively become one with the Brahman. By attainment of Brahman, one does not lose his eternal Brahman identity as an individual soul.
Yes, thank you, bro. So if you see in this purport, there is a suggestion given here. Suggestion given here, there is a solution given here to transcend the modes. What is the solution given here? So I said, transfer your consciousness to Krishna activities and do not be disturbed by your consciousness. Do not disturb your consciousness by the activities of the three modes. So he said, three modes will work. Three modes will do its work. But said now put an endeavor to transfer our consciousness to Krishna activities, to Krishna's service. So become Krishna. That's what Prabhupada said, no? International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So here, first step which is given here to work upon overcoming mode is to transfer our consciousness to Krishna activities. Prabhupada is writing here. Now, second step. Second steps he mentions. Okay, you may say, Prabhu, I'm not much attracted to Krishna. I don't know much about Krishna. Somehow I'm attracted to other form. Then Prabhupada says, okay, no problem. Prabhupada is also writing in the purport here and transfer to any form. So this form, Krishna's form, or Krishna, doesn't only mean Krishna. This includes not only Krishna, but all his plenary expansions. And Prabhupada said service to any of this form is transcendental. Why? Because all the forms are equipotent. So all the forms of Krishna are equipotent, omnipotent, then what they call omniscient, transcendental, and Satchidanand. So he said, so first step is transfer your consciousness to Krishna activities. Okay, if you're not attracted only to, if you're not much aware of Krishna activities, or if you're not much, then okay to any other form, because any service to, then Prabhupada says, render some service, because service to any form, service rendered with unfailing determination to any form helps one to overcome the modes. He even gives reference to 7.14 shloka. He gives their reference. Means it proper translates 7.14 shloka there. Now he may say, okay, render some service, but am I qualified to render some service? So I said, yeah, there is a qualification required to render service. What is the qualification required? One must be qualitatively equal with Krishna. If somebody is not on Satchidananda platform, like Krishna Satchidananda, so we should have qualitatively equality with Krishna. An analogy is given is gold mine and particle of gold. Krishna is like gold mine. and we are just a small, tiny fragment particle of gold. And then Prabhupada also gives an analogy of to be a personal assistant to a king, one must acquire the qualifications. So, what is the qualification required to serve Krishna? Qualification required to serve Krishna is to become Brahmabhut or to become Brahman. And to become Brahman, especially here, means to be freed from all effects of modes or freedom from all material contamination. But Prabhupada again cautioned because Prabhupada knows here that as soon as I talk about becoming Brahman, some people will think that is to merge in the Brahman or to lose our eternal identity. So Prabhupada, before only he clarifies. Okay, I'm telling, Krishna is telling here to become Brahman. But to become Brahman does not means that you lose your identity. Qualitatively, one like Brahman. And Prabhupada mentions in the last part, Bhakti Yoga means individuality is maintained externally. And so this was being answered. So this is the answer to question. This is the answer especially to Arjuna's third question. How can one, what is the practice a Sthita Prajna does? Or what is the practice by which he has become Sthita Prajna? So what are the practice? So he said he transfers step is, he transfers his consciousness to Krishna consciousness. If he is not attracted by Krishna much, okay, transfer to any other form because all forms are equipotent. How to transfer our consciousness to any form? By rendering some service. By rendering some service, engage in some seva. And what are the qualifications required? Work upon to overcome the effects of modes, work upon this, and at the same time work upon the overcoming modes. At the same time, fix your mind on Krishna or any other form. So this is 14.26, avibhichari bhakti. So avibhichari, only to Krishna. Krishna includes any other forms also, but mainly no other demigods, no other process which is being mentioned here. This is 14.26. Here, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur also gives one very interesting discussion about this. I'll just read from the commentary. So, as I mentioned, how to develop the service mode? Service mode is opposed to the enjoying mode. And so the modes may detect variety of allurement to a devotee. But devotee who is surrendered to Guru and follows Guru's instruction, he is not affected by the pushings and the pullings of modes. The attitude of devotion and service, and not mere the ability like that of Gnani, carries them to perfection. So Gnanis, they can discriminate between the modes. But he said for a devotee, the attitude of devotion and service. So Bhakti, Vishnu Chakra Thakur writes there, Bhakti, the process of Bhakti is for both sadhaka, the practitioner, the siddha, that is perfected devotee. Karmis and Jnanis eventually give up their processes as they attain higher stages of consciousness. But one need not never give up bhakti. Karmis and Jnanis, they give up the path. Once they become little perfect, once they overcome the influence of modes, if they feel, then they overcome. They give up the process only. But one need not give up bhakti. So he said, even karmis and jnanis who do not desire the shelter of Krishna's service as their ultimate goal must take to devotional service in order to achieve the fruit of their process. So he said, without connection with bhakti, little bit of bhakti also, even the other paths, karmis and jnanis, they also cannot attain a perfection. Now we are coming to the last shloka. Arjuna got confused. Arjuna felt, Krishna, actually, you said about that one will attain Brahman platform. He said, if somebody renders bhakti, then one will attain Brahman platform. But I am devotee. I am your devotee. I do not want Brahman platform. So Krishna, you said that by doing all this, by rendering service, one will attain Brahman platform. But actually, I do not want Brahman realization only. So Krishna, in the last shloka, he assures, Are Arjun, don't worry. Behind this Brahman, I am only there. So he said this Brahman platform is the basis. So entire the basis of Brahman, the basis of impersonal Brahman is actually I. Krishna says, I am there. So he said there is a effulgence, and behind that effulgence, there is a person. Behind the sun rays, there is sun glow. So that's why this shloka comes. Because Arjuna felt worried that you said, if I render bhakti to you, I will attend Brahman platform. But that is not my desire. Because my desire is to serve you. So he said, no, when you approach me, first you come across Brahman platform. And but behind that Brahman, I am there. I am the person who is standing. So the very famous shloka, 14.27. Okay, 14.27. ब्रह्मणो हि प्रतिष्ठाहम् अमृता स्वा ययस्य च शाश्वतस्य च धर्मस्य सुख स्याकि आन्तिकास्य च ब्राह्मणो हि प्रतिष्ठाहम् अमृतस्य ययस्य च शाश्वतस्य च धर्मस्य सुखस्य आन्तिकास्य च. Translation.
Chandrabhushan Prabhu.
Yes, and I am the basis of the impersonal Brahman, which is immortal, imperishable, and eternal, and is the constitutional position of ultimate happiness. Purport. The constitution of Brahman is immortality, imperishability, eternity, and happiness. Brahman is the beginning of transcendental realization. Paramatma, the super soul, is the middle, the second stage in transcendental realization, and the supreme personality of Godhead is the ultimate realization of the absolute truth. Therefore, both Paramatma and the impersonal Brahman are within the supreme person. It is explained in 7th chapter that material nature is the manifestation of the inferior energy of the Supreme Lord. The Lord impregnates the inferior material nature with fragments of the superior nature, and that is the spiritual touch in the material nature. When a living entity conditioned by this material nature begins the cultivation of spiritual knowledge, he elevates himself from the position of material existence and gradually rises up to the Brahman conception of the Supreme. This attainment of the Brahman conception of life is the first stage in self-realization. At this stage, the Brahman realized person is transcendental to the material position, but he is not actually perfect in Brahman realization. If he wants, he can continue to stay in the Brahman position and then gradually rise up to the Paramatma realization and then to the realization of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There are many examples of this in the Vedic literature. The four Kumaras were situated first in the impersonal Brahman conception of truth, but then they gradually rose to the platform of devotional service. One who cannot elevate himself beyond the impersonal conception of Brahman runs the risk of falling down. In Srimad Bhagavatam, it is stated that although a person may although a person may rise to the stage of impersonal Brahman without going further, with no information of the Supreme Person, his intelligence is not perfectly clear. Therefore, in spite of being raised to the Brahman platform, there is a chance of falling down. If one is not engaged in devotional service of the Lord, in the Vedic language, it is also said, Raso Vaisa Rasam Hai Evam lavyavanti, lavvandanti, bhavati. When one understands the personality of Godhead, the reservoir of pleasure, Krishna, he actually becomes transcendently blissful. That's 3 of Upanishad 2.7.1. The Supreme Lord is full in six opulences, and when a devotee approaches him, there is an exchange of these six opulences. The servant of the king enjoys on an almost equal level with the king, and so eternal happiness, imperishable happiness, and eternal life accompany devotional service. Therefore, realization of Brahman or eternity or imperishability is included in devotional service. This is already possessed by a person who is engaged in devotional service. The living entity, although Brahman by nature, has the desire to lord it over the material world, and due to this he falls down. In his constitutional position, a living entity is above the three modes of material nature, but association with material nature entangles him in different modes of material nature: goodness, passion, and ignorance. Due to the association of these three modes, his desire to dominate the material world is there. By engagement in devotional service in full Krishna consciousness, he is immediately situated in the transcendental position, and his unlawful desire to control material nature is removed. Therefore, the process of devotional service, beginning with hearing, chanting, remembering the prescribed 9 methods for realizing devotional service, should be practiced in the association of devotees. Gradually, by such association, by the influence of the spiritual master, one's material desire to dominate is removed, and one becomes firmly situated in the Lord's transcendental loving service. This method is prescribed from the 22nd to the last verse of this chapter. Devotional service to the Lord is very simple. One should always engage in the service of the Lord, should eat the remnants of the food stuff offered to the deity, smell the flowers offered to the lotus feet of the Lord, see the places where the Lord had his transcendental pastime, read of the different activities of the Lord, his reciprocation of love with his devotees, chant always the transcendental vibration Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, and observe the fasting days commemorating the appearances and disappearances of the Lord and his devotees. By following such a process, one becomes completely detached from all material activities. One who can thus situate himself in the Brahma Jyoti or the different varieties of the Brahman conception is equal to the Supreme Personality of Godhead in quality. Thus ends the Bhakti Vedanta purport to the 14th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the matter of the three modes of meditation.
Yeah. So I'll just summarize this verse. What are the, you can maybe, if you wish to underline, you can underline some vital portion from this verses. So very beautiful purport, very big purport by Srila Prabhupada. So initially he mentioned about what are the characteristics of Brahman. Like how Brahman, so Krishna said, do not worry Arjun, I am the basis of the Brahman. So what is the Brahman? Brahman is, he said, what are the characteristics of Brahman? Brahman is immortal, imperishable, eternal, constitutional position of ultimate happiness. So he said that is a stage, Brahma Bhuta stage, where Atma is situated. So he said Brahman is the first stage of realizing absolute truth. Vadanti tat tattvavidas tattvam jnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti. So he said, but beyond Brahman and Paramatma realization is Supreme Person realization. So Prabhupada very step by step mentions the different stages. So he said how it happens. So he said, first of all, living entity gets conditioned. Lord impregnates the spiritual living entity into material nature. The verse, the chapter in 7.4 and 7.5 also similar things are mentioned. Lord is impregnating. So he said, Lord impregnates spiritual living entity into material nature. Then what? Okay, now living entity has come into material nature. How he elevates himself? So he said, when a living entity, conditioned living entity, begins cultivating spiritual knowledge, he gradually rises up to the Brahman conception of Supreme. Brahman conception of Supreme is to understand that I am not this body, I am spirit soul, and there is a super soul, and one comes to this platform and is freed from the effects of modes. Then he said and then he works upon overcoming the modes. Then he has raised himself to the Brahman conception of Lord. Now, at this stage, he said he is becoming transcendental to the material position. But he said Brahman realization is not the perfect realization. Prabhupada writes in the purport. But Brahman realization is not complete realization of absolute truth. One may stay at this position for a long amount of time, but one will never be happy. There is a risk of fall down even at the Brahman stage. Why there is a risk of stage? If one is freed from three modes, one is not affected, one is transcendental, then how it is that? Because there is no service. Vinamat salokya sarishti samipya, that vinamat sevanam jana. We said there is no service. An example can be given in this regard. Like let's say a boy and girl, they get married. Only husband and wife, they're together. And suppose there is a great big amount of fight between husband and wife. Husband says, now I don't want to see your face. And wife also says, don't talk to me ever. And they both of them have a big severe fight. And then they put themselves in a different rooms. Husband puts in one room, husband stays in one room, wife stays in another room, and then they don't talk to each other at all. Her wife cooks the food and somehow she supplies the food via door or window. Husband takes it. Her husband also gives money, whatever is required, but they never talk to each other. So all facilities are given to both the people in both the rooms. They have all facilities for living, eating, sleeping, everything. That may appear okay, nice, no need to work. All money is there, but there is no reciprocation. There is no loving exchange. And he said, similar is a Brahman platform. Brahman platform means you're not affected by hunger, thirst, and any other pangs. But problem is there is no satisfaction because there is no opportunity to serve. And that's why Prabhupada says there is a risk of fall down even on the Brahman platform. And he summarizes that devotional service is the safest position for a devotee. Devotional service. He said devotional service includes all other characteristics of Brahman realization. Do not think that if you render devotional service, then other characteristics of Brahman realization will not come. So Prabhupada gives reference to the Taittiriya Upanishad here. That Supreme Personality of Godhead is the reservoir of all pleasures. So whatever pleasures are available through any other forms of yoga, that all pleasures are there by rendering service to Supreme Personality of Godhead. So I said Supreme Personality of Godhead is full in six opulences. And when we are approaching a person who is full of six opulences, so when devotee comes in the contact with such a person who is full of six opulences, so there is exchange of six opulences. So analogy which Prabhupada gives is a servant of king enjoys similar opulences to the level of king. If somebody is a servant of king, he also stays in palaces. He also travels on the horses and chariots. Similarly, we are servant of a person who is full in six opulences, full of beauty, full of strength. So such a person will also have exchange of six opulences. So he said all the characteristics of, so do not worry Arjun, you are rendering bhakti. Ultimately, I am only the basis of Brahman and you are attaining me only. So I just told you about Brahman. He said that is to understand what are the characteristics of Brahman. And so he said beyond Brahman. So just to summarize, in the last Prabhupada mentions the summary in this purport only. Prabhupada summarizes this entire chapter in this last purport. Prabhupada says the desire to enjoy the material world is a cause of our fall to the material world. And association with the modes cause us to take birth into different bodies. So he said, but Krishna consciousness immediately puts us to transcendental position. So how? So he said, first of all, one's desire to control the material world will go away. Then one starts practicing the 9 limbs of bhakti in association of devotee. It removes other desires to dominate the material world, and one becomes fixed up in bhakti. And he said, and one thus situated in the Brahman conception becomes equal in quality to Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is the way 14th chapter ends. In the 14th chapter only, Prabhupada is in the last sloka only. Prabhupada is summarizing the entire this way. So basically, this entire chapter is divided into 4 parts. Shloka number 1 to 13, they mention about the conditioning of the soul by material modes. So where Krishna glorifies the pure knowledge, which is going to give how Jiva comes into contact with the matter, how material modes bind the pure Jiva, how there is one mode which becomes prominent. Then there is a description about how what is the effect when one is conditioned by the different modes, what are the results of action in the different modes. And the last section discussed about how to transcend the modes, how to become Gunatita, where Arjuna asked 3 questions about becoming Gunatita and symptoms of Gunatit person, behavior of a Gunatit person. And he said, by pure bhakti only, one can actually transcend the mode and come to the level of Brahman. And Krishna said, I am the source of that Brahman. So this is the way 27 shloka, this is the chapter, this is the way chapter ends. So next chapter will start in the next week. But now, what will be the connection? How the next chapter will get connected? So he said, what is how the next chapter begins? So, and last this shloka, Krishna said, I am the shelter of Brahman. And Krishna said, by performing bhakti, one can transcend the modes and attain to Brahman. So he said, but problem is, Krishna, you are telling me again and again that I should develop attachment for you. I should develop attachment for you. I should render bhakti to you. But actually, problem is, I have a lot of attachment to this material world. You're talking to me about, you are saying that you render bhakti and then you will develop attachment. Then you will develop by developing attachment, you will come to me. But problem is, I am not yet sufficiently detached. I want detachment from this material world only. If you can help me to develop detachment from this material world, then you told developing attachment is a process of developing detachment. But there is a great struggle. So in this chapter, the 15th chapter, Krishna mainly describes about what is the process of breaking attachment to the material world. And he compares this world to be samsara. He compares to this entire material world to be a banyan tree, big banyan tree, ashwatta vriksha. And he says detachment to an axe to this tree. And then he tells about Purushottam Yoga. What is the importance of bhakti? So he said Purushottam Yoga. So how to go from this material world to spiritual world by developing detachment and by surrendering to the Lord, the process will be more detailed way explained. In the last shloka, he just hinted by develop attachment for me, render bhakti to the me. But in 15th chapter, there will be more description about how to actually develop this detachment and what is the process of surrendering to the Lord. 15th chapter will mention. So thank you very much, Prabhus. We'll today pause here only. In the next week, Prabhu, Shantanu Prabhu, which date we have finalized? Any idea? 21st, 2023 or 22, 23?
I'm yet to take the poll, Prabhuji.
What do you feel? We should take Thursday, Friday, or we should take Tuesday, Thursday?
Uh,
Hmm? Tuesday, Thursday will be better, I guess. Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. Many preachers may also come to your voice. Brahmachari preachers may come.
yes,
And all.
Prabhuji.
So Tuesday, Thursday.
Tuesday, Thursday.
Fine.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Fine. Hare Krishna.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Vancha kalpataru bhasya kripa sindhu bhyavatsa patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo. अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, श्रीमद् भागवत गीता की जय.
Prabhuji, one question can you take?
Okay, one, just one.
Okay. So, Prabhuji, in 18 chapter 54th verse, Krishna says Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma, and then he says that by this you can attain bhakti. And here he is saying reverse, that by doing bhakti you will attain Brahman platform. So this appears little contradictory. So how to resolve this contradiction?
18th chapter, 54 shloka, he mentions Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma.
Pradhanatma.
Okay, let me come to that verse. So if you carefully read that verse, the answer is given in that shloka only. It's the same.
Okay. Okay.
There only he mentions. Prabhupada clearly mentions it. I'll show you. Okay. Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma, na shocati na kankshati, sarma sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labate param. So what is the contradiction here? He said, na, the one who is transcendentally situated at once realizes the Supreme Brahman and becomes fully joyful. So he said transcendentally situated means a person who has overcome the effects of the modes, he realizes the Supreme Brahman and becomes fully joyful. So similar stages coming, na? The similar platform, like he mentioned Brahma Bhuta, Sthita Prajna ka jo qualities, he never laments, nor desires to have anything. He is equally disposed. In that state, he attains pure devotional service to me. So you mean to say ki, okay, by rendering service, by rendering service, one attains Brahman platform.
So in
And
this verse,
so yeah, same
14.26.
same question Arjuna also asked. Na? He said, actually, Arjuna also asked same question, na? In the 14.26, that connecting link between 14.26 to 27. Arjuna also felt, I am not actually wanting Brahman platform. He said, but Brahman is a first step of realization of Supreme Lord. He said, Brahman. He said, behind that, I am there. So he said, and Prabhupada also in 14.26, 14.27, he mentions that somebody's rendering bhakti to Supreme Lord. Brahman platform is already attained. So Brahman platform is already attained, he said, and the higher realization is Bhagwan platform. So he said, here also similar saying, same the purport which we read last purport, I think same things were being mentioned. He said, to the impersonalist, achieving the Brahma Bhuta stage is the last word. But for personalist or pure devotee, one has to go still further to become engaged in the pure devotional service. So, and you said that by rendering pure devotional service, one will attend to Brahman platform. So that is in 14.26. But Krishna explained that do not worry, I am the basis of that Brahman. He said, actually, you are attaining me 14.27. So they impersonally stop at this shloka only. But that 14.27, Krishna mentions, I am the basis of that Brahman. So Arjuna also got similar worry only. He said, what you are asking, that you are talking about by doing bhakti, one will attain Brahma Bhuta platform. But that is not the only thing. We want Krishna. So he said 14.27 mentioned that I am that basis of Brahman. So here if you see in the purport also, Prabhupada writes, if you can clarify once more your question, what exactly question is?
Prabhuji, so in 14.26, actually, if you see, by mentioning a higher thing, if already the lower thing is already included in that, then why to tell that as a destination in 14.26 itself? Because if already one is doing bhakti, then he is already beyond Brahman only, beyond Brahman Paramatma stage. So why to even give that option that you will attend Brahman platform, because he has already attained to the level of the bhakti, right? The Bhagwan platform. So because that option is given, then it becomes little difficult. Of course, he's answering in the next, but if that option
Actually, if
itself
you
is
see 18th chapter
uh,
is mainly the conclusion. So even
hmm,
all the conclusions which are there, they again come. Like in second
right, right,
chapter,
right.
the contents of Gita are summarized. So in
Right.
conclusion, means wherever you want to, this is there, no? Conclusion is there. So again, he's
Mhm.
many things. If you see 18th chapter, the second chapter, all the things will come. Then again, this
Mhm.
chapter, it's a conclusion. So he said
Correct.
this Brahma Bhuta platform you will attend, and again, if you see 18.54 ahead, if you go little, again the same conclusion will come. So when you summarize, that is the way conclusion comes, no?
Right. So because it appears initially that bhakti leads to Brahman, and in this verse 18.54 it is said that Brahman leads to bhakti. So then it's a
No,
reverse
no.
process.
See,
Yes, and
14.26 is telling Bhakti leads to Bhakti leads to Brahma Bhuta platform. Okay,
mhm.
14.26 mentioned. But again, 14.27 it said, he said this is the beginning of realization. Arjuna also got same doubt, na? That you were saying that Bhakti leads to Brahman. He said, but I am a devotee. He said, don't worry, this is for you. This is the first step you get. This is the first landmark you get. And then this. And here you said after Brahman. So if you see, there is no contradiction. After Brahman comes what? After Brahman comes Bhagwan realization. Here also Arjuna is saying similar only, that bhakti leads to first step is Brahman realization, and then Krishna said, I am the basis of that Brahman. So both are similar only. There is no, means I don't find any
uh,
confusion.
Actually, if so, Brahman leads to bhakti, that is understood. 18.54, it's quite
Mm-hmm.
clear and straightforward in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
But if
Mm-hmm.
someone is already at a higher stage, how will that higher stage lead one to a lower stage?
No, no,
There's
no,
no
no.
need
It is
only to
not
go to
higher
that stage.
stage. It is a render. It is not a higher stage. This sloka, this entire chapter, 14th chapter, is a discussion about a person who is affected by the modes. So person who
Okay.
is currently has not transcended the modes.
Mm-hmm.
But now he renders a bhakti. So again we come back to the same discussion, yesterday wala discussion, that can a Shuddha bhakti or a pure devotional service be rendered
Okay.
by a person who is affected by modes or no, or he has to overcome all the modes, and then so same discussion. We said activity, Anya Abhilasha Shunya, again we discuss, it can be rendered by a person, but he still now he has not fully transcended.
Mm-hmm.
He has not fully transcended. So 14th chapter is mainly the Arjuna has asked a process of becoming freed from the modes. So he is not on the Brahman platform. He is now he is under the modes, but he renders a Vabhichari Bhakti. Now we may say, how will render a Vabhichari Bhakti? Because modes are bind up? No. He said, transfer your consciousness to Krishna activities. Transfer your consciousness to any other form. So 14, that steps were mentioned. And by now he will come to Brahman platform. And then again, 18.54 onwards, he continues.
Correct. Okay. Got it, Project. Yes, understood.
Hare Bol. Hare
Very
Krishna.
good.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Jai.
Thank you, Project.